Hey everybody, it's Sneaky Narcotic, back at it again with another YouTube video. I wanted to be able to do a video about top picks today. Before we get started though, please like, share, and subscribe, and comment in the section down below, and I'd really appreciate it. So let's first get into it. My top picks, creature-wise, for RNA. Ravnica Allegiance. Let's get started. So my first choice, my first big top pick that I wanted to talk about, Rakdos himself, the Showstopper. 4 generic, 1 black, 1 red, legendary creature demon, and it is a mythic rare, flying trample. When Rakdos the Showstopper enters the battlefield, flip a coin for each creature that isn't a demon, devil, or imp. Destroy each creature whose coin comes up tails. The flavor text reads, entertain me, and it is a 6/6, 4/6 with a potential board wipe. It's great. Or at least creature board wipe. Not total board wipe, but still. Looks pretty great. It is pretty great, you know. The thing that gets me is that I love this card, especially in Commander, because in Commander, you know, it's a 6-drop Commander, not hard to do in Commander. 6-drop Commander, and potential board wipe there. Then you let it die, and you bring it back for 8. Another potential board wipe there. And that's just the constant being able to board, to really not necessarily board wipe, but to really clear the board of most things, or at least to stop your opponent from just going off. This could kill a combo, you know, especially if they're using their creature to combo off. I'm looking at you, Proliferate deck. In Standard, though, this is what I think in Standard. The only thing I really can think about is at least this is going towards the alternate win condition that Liliana's contract has. Liliana's contract says at the beginning of your upkeep, if you control 4 or more demons with different names, you win the game. Well, this plus these 3 are going to be really the only demons in Standard, unless you use Arcane Adaptation, which I didn't put a picture of that on here, but basically that says pick a creature type, all creatures you control are that creature type. And that's how a lot of people win with Arcane Adaptation and Liliana's contract. But these 3 demons are the only ones, and they're all, not necessarily all, but most of them are hard to play. For instance, Demon Lord Bells and Log is going to deal you damage. Demon of Catastrophes is going to make you sacrifice a creature. Doom Whisper's fine. You know, Doom Whisper doesn't really do anything except for it's a 6/6 flying trampler for 5. And I like that. But Bells and Lock and Demon of Catastrophes, those two demons are going to make you have to have a downside to demons. And that's a demon thing to do, you know. Demons are these big creatures that you have to sacrifice something for them to come out, you know. But for you to be able to get Liliana's contract down, you'd have to pay all this mana, and without Arcane Adaptation again, pay all this mana. So I don't necessarily think it's viable in Standard yet. Maybe with the 3rd guild set we'll get probably in September. Maybe then we'll get a lot more demon interactions. Maybe. I mean, most of them are dead if you follow the story, but or at least the archdemons. Anyways, going forward, my next card is Hydroid Crassus. This card was really pretty cool. A lot of people, a lot of streamers, YouTubers, have you talked about this card when it first came out, because it's what Simic, I feel Simic should get into. Having a creature that's basically half a sorcery here, obviously, but when they have flash, it would be half an instant. So Hydroid Krasis, it's an X mana cost, 1 green, 1 blue. Creature, jellyfish, hydra, beast, mythic rare, and it comes out for 0/0 unless you it has base power 0/0. Um, it has flying and trample. Whenever you cast this spell, you gain half X life and draw half X cards, round down each time. And then Hydroid Crassus enters the battlefield with X +1/+1 counters on it. So again, I said this in the actual video I spoiled this on, but when you play this, you're going to have to, if you want full value out of this card, play it for at least 2x mana plus the green plus the blue. So that would be on turn 4, unless of course you're ramping, but you would have to have 4 lands. Or 4 mana, I mean. And that would draw you 1 card, gain you 1 life, and this would come out for a 2/2 flying trampler. The longer you wait in a game, the more Hydroid Crassus is going to be a good card, because it's going to refill your hand the longer you wait. It's going to refill your life total the longer you wait. And then it's just going to be this big flying creature. And I love that it's flying trample and not just trample, because there's so many things on the ground nowadays, especially with Gruul going to be a big thing, that flyers are going to be more valuable. Granted, Gruul does have a lot of support against flyers, so the flavor text on it reads, "Havoc is a small price to pay for data." This card reminded me of a similar card in kind of a card I'd match it up with if you wanted to go Bant, and that is Camaraderie. 4 generic, 1 green, 1 white. You gain X life and draw X cards, where X is the number of creatures you control. Creatures you control get +1/+1 till end of turn. This card reminded me of that because of that whole gain life, draw cards, and X value. It feels like if you were to go Bant, you might want to go Bant tokens just to get the life total out of that, to get the draw value, and then also be able to go longer, having more blockers until you get a huge Hydroid Crassus and probably finish off the game with the Crassus. But yeah, those 2 cards kind of looked very similar to me. Let me know what you guys think about that. The next card I wanted to talk about is Nikya of the Old Ways. 3 generic, 1 red, 1 green. Legendary creature, Centaur Druid, and it is a rare. You can't cast non-creature spells. Whenever you tap a land for mana, add 1 mana of any type that land produced. The flavor text says, "The hooves of the raised boar will trample the weak and their city to dust." And it's a 5/5. I like this card in more than one format. I love this card in Gruul because there's enough creatures out there that you really don't care that you're not playing non-creature spells. I mean, in fact, in a Gruul deck that I would make, it would be mostly creatures except for Domri, which I don't think I actually have in this video. No, I definitely don't, because it's creatures only. I think he's going to be in my discussion on Planeswalkers video. But anyways, I like this card because it reminds me of 2 cards that are commonly played, 2 types of cards commonly played in Commander. And one of them is Cage Sun. By lesser extent, Gauntlet of Power is on there too. And it basically does the same thing as Cage Sun. You choose a color, and lands you tap for that color, add 1 additional mana of that color. But they also get an Anthem effect. And Mirari's Wake, where it's an enchantment instead of an artifact, but it gives all your mana an ability to tap for another mana that land would produce. And it, again, Anthem effect. Nikia doesn't have the Anthem effect, but it's a body. It's on a body, and a big body at that. 5/5 for 5, not that bad, not that shabby. Nikia being, I don't think I'd ever, and I feel like I don't think I'd ever use her as a commander. I don't think she would do bad as a commander, but I don't think I personally would ever use her. I'd use her more as a lieutenant, more of a card that I wish I'd see every single game, just not in the command zone, because being able to tap your land for extra mana is great, don't get me wrong, but there are so many things, especially in Gruul, that you'd probably rather another commander with a different effect. Granted, off the top of my head, I can't name you a Gruul commander, but that's beside the point. For instance, okay, no, you know what? Never mind. Let me bring up one. Animar. Animar says Animar is actually going to be a commander that I'm brewing with later tonight. I'm going to make a commander video on Animar, and so please check that out. But Animar says that protection from white and from black. Whenever you cast a creature spell, put a +1/+1 counter on Animar Soul of Elements. Creature spells you cast cost 1 less to cast for each +1/+1 counter on Animar. So I'd use Nikya of the Old Ways when it comes to Animar, and that would even add a little Teamer spice. Teamer being red, green, and blue, for all of those that don't know that. So yeah, that's when I'd use what she would feel more comfortable as in Teamer. I do like the Centaur Druid effect though, having a little spice to just being a basic Centaur, you know? But anyways, let's go to the next card. Tessa Karlov. I love Tessa. Tessa Karlov. 2 generic, 1 white, 1 black. Legendary creature, Human Advisor. It is a rare. It's a 2/4. If a creature dying causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. Creature tokens you control have Vigilance and Lifelink. While Kaya is Guildmaster, Tessa waits patiently at the center of the Orzhov web of power. So, with Tessa Karlov, not only in Standard, where she's going to see a lot of play, she's going to be in Commander a little bit too, just because of that whole I don't know what exactly you guys would call it, but it's kind of a death trigger. Anyways, it's kind of like a Panharmonicon of death triggers. You know, that's what it feels like to me. So here's some thoughts on it. There's Afterlife. And this is just, I picked a creature that had Afterlife. This isn't necessarily what I would do exactly, but it's there. So, Tessa Karlov would allow, if this card, the Knight of the Last Breath, died, Tessa Karlov would make 6 1/1 white and black spirit creature tokens with flying and vigilance and lifelink. That would be 6 life that you would be able to gain every single turn, as long as they don't have flyers already protecting them. Or even then, I guess you could. There was another card that I can't think of right now, but it gives creature tokens +1/+1. And that would pair really well with Tessa Karlov. And in Commander, there's multiple different combinations that I just didn't even think about looking up. But, I mean, basically anything that would give you value for something dying. I wonder... No, I guess it says specifically dying trigger and not just sacrifice. Because Shadow Acolyte would be one that would be pretty cool to let, if it was a dying trigger, but that's a sacrifice trigger, I guess. Anyways, yeah, so there's multiple things that you could probably use in Commander to just double up on in... For instance, I believe there's an enchantment out there that says whenever a creature you control dies, deal 1 damage to each opponent. Well, that would say deal 2 damage. When each opponent's getting shocked per, let's say, spirit tokens, every single time a spirit token dies, yeah, that's pretty bad. Anyways, let's go to the next card. Judith the Scourge Diva. Speaking of, this is kind of like what I was just talking about. So Judith the Scourge Diva is, I was thinking about making a Mardu deck, white, black, and red, with Judith and Tessa being best friends. So Judith says, other creatures you control get +1/+1. Whenever a non-token creature you control dies, Judith the Scourge Diva deals 1 damage to any target. So the reason why I wanted to buddy him up like that is because, first off, Judith having that little deals 1 damage, because it's when a creature dying causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, Judith triggering, then it will, double up, and it will become a shock instead of a ping. I don't know exactly what you would call 1 damage. But yeah, it would become a shock to the opponent's face, to any target, actually. On top of that, she would give your black and white spirit tokens, +1/+0. So I do like that as well, especially because Tessa would give them vigilance and lifelink. So I think having Judith and Tessa out at the same time would be super powerful, and they're almost on curve too, because Judith is a 3-drop, Tessa's a 4-drop. I think that would be exceedingly, at least fun, if not do really well. Anyways, that's all I gotta say on that. Let's go to the next one. Biomancer's Familiar. 1 green, 1 blue, creature mutant, rare. Activated abilities of creatures you control cost 2 less to activate. This effect can't reduce the amount of mana an ability costs to activate to less than 1 mana. Tap. The next time target creature adapts this turn, it adapts as though it had no +1/+1 counters on it. There's multiple applications, again, in Commander and in Legacy, where this would be good. And one that I could think of is if you could get multiple instances of Biomancer's Familiar out with Walking Ballista, you could basically pay 1 to put a +1/+1 counter on Walking Ballista. And if you guys don't remember, Walking Ballista had the ability to take any number of +1/+1 counters on it, and take each individual +1/+1 counter would deal 1 damage to any target that you take off of Walking Ballista. And that would be pretty nice. I'm sure there's more things out there, in especially Legacy and Modern, that would do better with Ballista, but that's still something I think to be mentioned. Something that I thought of, at least in the new standard, is the Adapt trigger. And these are 2 cards that I think are just going to end up in the same deck as a Biomancer's Familiar, and that's Trollbred Guardian and Skatewing Spy. With Biomancer's Familiar, it's going to make Trollbred Guardian only cost 1 green to adapt, and Skatewing Spy would cost, 3 generic, 1 blue to adapt twice, or adapt 2, I say. And then, of course, each creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it has flying or has trample. So I think this is going to pair lovely together in a Simic deck. I'm very much looking forward to it. Okay, so before Biomancer's Familiar got spoiled, they had the adapt abilities, and as you can see, especially with Skatewing Spy there, it gets really expensive. So when they did Biomancer's Familiar, I was like, oh, thank God, they're actually making it worthwhile, making it viable, I will say. So I really did want to at least mention Biomancer's Familiar, because I think it fixed Simic, at least if you wanted to go down the adapt route of Simic. There's another route of Simic I will be talking about in a little bit, that I've already talked about, but I want to mention it again. So let's get on to the next card. Speaking of, Frilled Mystic, 2 green, 2 blue, creature, elf, lizard, wizard. It is a uncommon flash. When Frilled Mystic enters the battlefield, you may counter target spell. Your arrival was expected and unwelcome. 3/2. when this dropped, every single one of the old Magic players was like, oh my god, it's a Mystic Snake. They reprinted Mystic Snake. Not even they reprinted Mystic Snake. They reprinted Mystic Snake as an uncommon. So I get why people are hyped about this card, because this is my thought process. So, like, back here, I was talking about how, adapt and Simic. Bump that. Counter Magic Simic. Just counter control Simic, where you're only playing Frilled Mystic and counter spells and draw spells to make sure you're refilling your hand. So that way that Frilled Mystic is literally your only creature, and you just beat them to face with the Frilled Mystic and try to make sure they don't have anything on the board. That's my thought process. It's going to be slow, it's going to be painful, but I feel like it's going to work. I do want to say, it looks almost like, and yeah, okay, so you guys can see my mouse. It almost looks like they just took this person here from, I wasn't in the set, so I don't even know what this person was or whatever. But it looks like they just took this person and put him over here with, with Simic feel of Biomancer. And anyways, I don't know. I think it's pretty cool. I obviously think, especially with them having Frilled Mystic and Mystic Snake, like that, I feel like they were trying to play off the Mystic Snake card. Granted, I can't believe they made an uncommon. I could have sworn it was a rare. Of course, I'm staring at it now, so I know it's not. But I could have sworn it was a rare, and I'm kind of surprised they made such a powerful card, an uncommon card. Having a creature that is an instant. It's an instant counterspell for... Hell, it's a counterspell for 1 more mana than a normal counterspell that counters any spell instead of a specific type or has a downside to it. I always base counter spells off of cancel. So cancel is, I want to say 2 generic, 1 blue, or 1 generic and 2 blue. But it's a 3 mana cost spell in blue. And so for them to give it a 1 more mana and a little more stringent, let's be honest, a little more stringent with the double green, double blue, it feels not like an uncommon. Here's a fantastic card. When I read this card, I was kind of surprised they printed it, because it felt like a card you see all the time in Commander, like a card that would be, oh my god, you played that card? I didn't even know that card existed, and it just saved your butt. An opponent in Commander okay, so first off, let's read the card. Angel of Grace, 3 generic, 2 white. Creature, Angel, mythic rare, flash, flying. When Angel of Grace enters the battlefield until end of turn, damage that would reduce your life total to less than 1 reduces it to 1 instead. And of course, if it's in the graveyard, you can pay 4 generic, 2 white, exile Angel of Grace from your graveyard. Your life total becomes 10. So, there's that. 5 generic, it comes out for 5 power, 4 toughness. So, this is something, again, I would see in a Commander deck that was like, oh my god, you played that, and it just saved your bacon, but I've never heard that card. It feels like a sleeper, because I haven't really heard of anybody talking about it. But when I was doing my research for this video, I actually came across something that, and I don't even know how I thought of it. It just happened upon me. What if you just spend the whole game building your board state, just keeping your life open and waiting for that opponent to get it down, have Angel of Grace just up, and all of a sudden they are posed to deal damage down your life total to less than 1. You play Angel of Grace, it gets it, and it brings your life total to 1. You have Access and Morality out. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may change life totals with a opponent. And so you would change your life total with your opponent, and he would now have 1. You'd probably have 20 if you weren't building your board state and swinging at him at all. So it'd be 20 on your side, 1 on his side. And you just swing in with the Angel of Grace because, I mean, hey, why not? I feel like this is something that you'll get off one time, and then your opponent would be like, oh, that's never happening again. Now that I know you can do that, it's never happening again. But I feel like you can at least get it that one time where you play Angel of Grace right before your life total hits 0, and it turns it to 1. Then you take your turn, and you exchange life totals. He now has 1, and then you swing out with Angel of Grace, which has flying, so, not a lot of people have flying, and I guess they will start having it now, especially with Afterlife, but not the point. It will put them in shock range. You could just do this and shock them. So it's a lot easier to just let your life total go bad and then save your bacon at the last minute, then make your opponent's life total look like crap and kill him. And I can imagine how salty your opponent would get. It's just something I thought of on the fly, guys. And of course, Angel of Grace would be good in it's just a backup, it would be good in Commander, Legacy, all sorts of Magic fun play, not Pauper. You can't play it in Pauper. So our next card is Mesmerizing Benthid. I wanted to mention this card. It's a 3 generic 2 blue creature octopus mythic rare. When Mesmerizing Benthid enters the battlefield, create 2/2 blue illusion creature tokens with whenever this creature blocks a creature, that creature doesn't untap during its controller's next untap step. Mesmerizing Benthid has hexproof as long as you control an illusion. So, I don't necessarily like the Benthid. I love its art. That's something I do like about it. But I don't necessarily like the card itself, because it's a 4/5 that just has a pseudo hexproof. If you can kill those illusions, or those illusions actually almost are way better than the Benthid, allowing your opponent to tap and then get blocked, but then not untap the next step. Basically, what's that card? It's a Merfolk that does not the exact same thing, but it comes down and taps your opponent's creature, and that creature doesn't tap the next untap step. Excuse me, guys. But I tried to see why they would put, other than, of course, the blue illusion tokens that it makes, why they would put the whole thing about has hexproof as long as you control an illusion. There's only 2 illusions that will come up. One is Narcomoeba, and one is the Vannifar, but I guess I didn't grab a picture of Vannifar. Vannifar is from Ravnica Allegiance, but Narcomoeba is an illusion too, and so unless you're playing some weird dredge with Narcomoeba and Mesmerizing Benthid, I don't know why you would play these together. I really don't know why you would play with Vannifar, because Vannifar is not necessarily for the Mesmerizing Benthid, but I guess it could work. Something to think about though, when you have those 2 blue illusions, is kind of building this tap out, or what I guess I'd call it a sleep deck. Sleep was a card that says tap all your opponent's creatures. Tap all your opponent's creatures. Pretty sure that's all it says. And so I would call it a sleep type deck, where you're just turning your opponent's creature sideways, and then using a card like Variety Circle to draw you some cards so you can turn your opponent's creature sideways again, so they're not doing any damage and they're not standing up against you while you're trying to attack them. So anyways, let's go into the next card. Very fun card here, Biogenic Ooze. Same thing with Biogenic Ooze, by the way. But let's read the card before I go into it. So 3 generic, 2 green, creature ooze, mythic rare. When Biogenic Ooze enters the battlefield, create a 2/2 green ooze creature token at the beginning of your end step. Put a +1/+1 counter on each ooze you control. 1 generic, 3 green, create a 2/2 green ooze creature token. So I like this card because it gives it what I would consider a better effect than an Anthem effect. So normal cards like this would just give +1/+1 to all your oozes, or excuse me, guys. I'm so sorry. Or to each ooze you control. This says that if your ooze survives, it gets bigger. And if it keeps surviving, it keeps getting bigger. Instead of just having a 3/3 ooze, you could have a 3/3 ooze at this turn, and then the next turn you could have a 4/4 ooze, and so on and so forth. I do like that it allows you to make oozes. Actually, Vanifar's not an illusion. I remember. She's an ooze. And so that's the only thing, is that, like, I don't know why they didn't put more oozes in here. Because, yeah, you can make the oozes with Biogenic Ooze, but why make it a thing and then give it to another creature that doesn't even really need it? This is the only other ooze is Vanifar. So I don't get it. But anyways, not the point. The next card, Lumbering Battlement. 4 generic, 1 white, creature beast. It is a mythic, not a mythic rare, but a rare. Vigilance. When Lumbering Battlement enters battlefield, exile any number of other non-token creatures you control until it leaves the battlefield. Lumbering Battlement gets +2/+2 for each card exiled with it. So I like this card because of cards like this, where they have really powerful enter the battlefield effects, like gaining 4 life. That's revitalize with a body. Knight of Autumn, either making a bigger Knight of Autumn, destroying target artifact or enchantment, gaining another revitalize trigger. So cards like this that will help you stay in the game, even when Lumbering Battlement dies. Or in fact, this doesn't even say dies. It says it leaves the battlefield. So that's exile, dies, tempos back to your hand, all of the above. And so that's still pretty good. And then on top of that, not only does it just exile any number you can choose, but it gives it +2/+2 instead of +1/+1 or +1/+0, or the opposite, +0/+1. It's +2/+2, making it to where, like, say for instance, by this time you could have a Knight of Autumn and a Lockstone down. Knight of Autumn and Lockstone would make it a 4/4 + 4/5, so a 8/9 for a 6. That's pretty good with Vigilance. The only thing it's missing is Trample. And then when it dies, it gains you 8 life and then leaves you 2 bodies of a 2/1 and a 3/4. If you get board wiped, well, their board wipe basically did nil, because there you go. You just gain some life and you have these big creatures back again. So I like Lumbering Battlement for those factors alone. Immolation Shaman. 1 generic, 1 red. Whenever an opponent activates an ability of an artifact, creature, or land that isn't a mana ability, Immolation Shaman does 1 damage to that player. 3 generic, 2 red. Immolation Shaman gets +3/+3 and gains menace until end of turn. It is a 1/3, by the way, for 2. So I just think this card's interesting. It's not necessarily shows this for top choice, even though I know it's a top choice video, but I thought it was interesting because it says Immolation Shaman deals 1 damage to that player. No, excuse me, I'm sorry. I'm thinking of a different card. So when I think it's funny that Immolation Shaman would actually activate an opponent's Immolation Shaman, because you can use that 3 generic and 2 red, and that's an activated ability right there. There's cards that I was thinking about that a lot of people use all the time, and I'll go through them one at a time. That was just a sneak preview, but say for instance Doom Whisperer. A lot of people have used Doom Whisperer in the last meta, or I guess I should say until the next time, the current meta. But this would make Doom Whisperer actually become instead of a shock, it would become a lightning strike. Yeah, a lightning strike to your opponent's life total. And that makes it at least good for that. And that's only with one Immolation Shaman. If you have 2 out, then it just became a Lava Axe, I guess. I'm still trying to remember some of my old burn cards. Anyways, then you have a card like Treasure Map, which I see all the time. People trying to scry and make sure that their top looks good. Well, every single time you scry, you're doing the damage to your life total. Then you flip a Treasure Map. A lot of people use this sacrifice a treasure, draw a card ability too. Well, you're doing a point of damage to your life total, and they add up, guys. That's why cards like and this isn't activated, this is a static ability, but cards like Fountain of Exist, where it gains you a life at your upkeep, and then you can sacrifice it and draw 2 cards, I believe. But you gain a life at your upkeep because that keeps you in the game for longer. Well, Shaman says, I'm going to keep you in the game for less time. Especially if you want to do shenanigans like Doom Whisperer, Treasure Map, or Treasure Cove. Speaking of some more shenanigans, here's a Sphinx of Foresight, 2 generic, 2 blue. You may it's a creature Sphinx rare. You may reveal this card from your opening hand if you do scry 3 at the beginning of your first upkeep. Flying at the beginning of your upkeep, scry 1. And it is a 4/4. So the reason I like this card is it gives you that like ley line effect where if it starts in your opening hand, you can go ahead and use something or use it. And the probability of that, I always do this. It's I'm going to do this math again, make sure I'm doing it right. The math is 4 divided by 60 if you're playing a full play set of this, which you can for 4 mana. That's not bad, especially for a 4 mana flyer. So 0.06, so that's 6%, and it was actually 6.6%, or almost 6.7%. And so that's 6.7% of the time that you're going to have this in your opening hand or draw it into your opening hand. And of course that always gets bigger the more you draw, but anyways, it's not going to be uncommon to get Sphinx of Foresight in your hand and do that first scry ability. But on top of that, once you get it out, and if you get multiple copies out, you get multiple instances of this. But at the beginning of your upkeep, scry 1. Now, again, if you do have more than one of these out, it doesn't say that it's stacked. So it would still be, if you say, for instance, at the beginning of your upkeep, you scried and you saw an opt on top, and you're like, ooh, an opt, I'll keep it up top. Well, it doesn't say that you get to dig down below that opt. If you kept that opt on top, the next scry ability would say, ooh, you get to look at that opt and keep it on top or put it on the bottom. So, just saying that in case you're new, that's not how that works. You wouldn't scry 2, you'd scry 1 still. Anyways, it reminds me a lot of Treasure Map, a card I just talked about, in fact. A lot of people pay in Treasure Map itself is pay 1 generic, tap it, and scry 1. And then, of course, I get whatever they call it on here, landmark counter on it, and then it flips into Treasure Cove. But, a lot of people use it just for its scry ability, let alone the flipping ability. And so, Sphinx of Foresight I could see being a good, not necessarily replacement, because Treasure Map is able to be on any one of the 5 colors decks. And where Sphinx has to be in a blue deck. But I can see it taking place in a blue deck of Treasure Map, if anybody's honestly doing that. The next cards I want to talk about, and it's really more of just a meta that I'm looking forward to, If you guys know me at all, I love Mill. I'm in love with Mill. If Mill was a woman, she'd be at my house all the time because I'd be in love with her. Wall of Lost Thoughts, 1 generic, 1 blue, creature wall, and it is an uncommon defender. When Wall of Lost Thoughts enters the battlefield, target player puts the top 4 cards of their library into their graveyard. It is a 0/4. It mills 4 cards for 2. I like that. And then it's a body to make sure that you're staying alive. I like that in a card, especially when you have cards like Drowned Secrets that says whenever you cast a spell, a blue spell, target player puts the top 2 cards of their library into their graveyard. Well, that says that Wall of Lost Thoughts just became mill your opponent for 6. And if you have more than 1 Drowned Secrets, of course that goes up per Drowned Secrets. There's a card similar in Standard right now. It goes to M19. It's called Wall of Mist. It's the same mana cost, 1 generic, 1 blue, and it's a defender. The only difference is instead of being a 0/4, it's a 0/5, and it has no ability. So, I'm just saying, Wall of Lost Thoughts looks like a good card. Persistent Petitioners. This is something that Mill has a problem with, is that it did not have a creature base up until this point. Drowned Secrets, Psychic Corrosion, Patience Rebuilding. These were the cards that were really, at least in mono blue, building upon Mill. And it did a good job. Like Drowned Secrets, I've played a couple different decks where Drowned Secrets by itself just does a good job. It might just be the only card that you need 4 copies of, and you'll mill out your opponent. But having the added bonus of getting Wall of Lost Thoughts and then Persistent Petitioners with its 1 generic, 1 blue, creature human advisor, 1/3, pay 1 mana, tap the Petitioner. Target player puts the top card of their library into their graveyard. Okay, that's cute. Tap 4 untapped advisors without having to pay mana. You control target player puts the top 12 cards of their library into their graveyard. A deck can have any number of cards named Persistent Petitioners. So that's just it's pretty good, man. Like I am in love with the new. This is again one of my favorite archetypes, and I'm going to love the mess out of it when it finally drops. In fact, I might play a game on Untapped this weekend since the full spoiler season is now over. Sad, guys, we don't have any more cool cards coming out. Granted, already happy about the cards that have come out. So it's going to be fun, guys. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to this new season of Magic like I've never looked forward to a season of Magic before. So, with that, guys, that is the top cards that I'm looking forward to for this new Ravnica Allegiance Standard. Thank you guys for watching this video. Please like, share, and subscribe. It would mean a lot to me, and it would help out my channel a lot if you guys would subscribe and share with your friends, and then share with me. Like, comment down in the section below. Help me know what you guys like, what you guys want to see. I'll play any deck as long as I have the cards for it. And I especially with my payday coming up on the 15th, I will be having some more money to spend into Magic, which I'd love to do. I am a big fan of Magic, and that's what I want to do. I just want to play Magic for you guys. So thank you guys. This is Sneaky Narcotic, signing off.